And when you say choose who you forgive but not forget,
Exactly.
how does the not forgetting part look like?
I think the not forgetting part is even after getting hurt, don't lose your kindness, don't change who you are, but don't overgive to the people who take. Don't allow that door again to open where your boundaries are violated. Do it scared. And this is the time to do everything, whether it's the podcast. I know I'm even talking to myself as I say this, but do it scared. The time you feel fear is actually the best time to do it.
And when the big companies finally come knocking, tell them, it's about time.
Yeah.
Hey guys, and welcome to season 5 of A Letter to My Younger Self. Can you guys believe it? 5 whole seasons. If you are an oldie but a goodie, you might have noticed that we have moved houses. So Letter to My Younger Self now has its own YouTube channel separate from mine. If you are new here and you'd like to watch or listen to the previous episodes, you can check the link down below in the description box and we'll have all that info there for you guys. So for this first episode, we have a lady who I personally stan. Stan. How does the song go? They can never make me hate you. That is Chebet Ronoh. So welcome to the podcast, Ronoh.
Thank you. I would say the same.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have you been?
I've been great.
I've not seen you for ages.
Yeah.
Umekuwa ukijificha wapi?
Defrosting to release.
Yeah. And I have to admit that when I read your letter, there was so much like, oh, like it was so touching, but at the same time, the humor was still really in there. And when I was reading it, I kept on reading it like in your exact voice. I don't know if it's because you're a content creator, so we're always seeing your videos and you know how you say things. And I was reading it, I was literally reading it, not in my inside voice, but in your voice. So before we can get started, you can go ahead and read the letter for us and then we'll discuss it.
So, dear little Babette, listen carefully because I'm only going to say this 9,248 times. You are enough. Not when you get the boyfriend, not when you lose the weight, not when you prove them wrong. Now, as you are, is enough and valuable. Make peace with that. Man, I'd do anything to be your gullible self again. How your eyes glistened at the world with amazement and curiosity. Now we only soak up the sun. But you brought me here, and for that, I will forever be grateful. You are more confident and poised than you give yourself credit for. Stop being so scared of everything. Literally, even the dark. Girl, bye. The limit does not exist. When it comes to what is possible with God, and the dreams you have, there is no limit. So when the big companies call, pick up and say, took you long enough. I forgive you for the late start, but now what's the plan? I'm so grateful to you for taking a chance on me. You are bold enough to speak into a camera, and now we change our life, and others' lives every day. I love you so much that it shows in the way I never gave up on you. You're a beautiful soul and an extraordinary woman who is more than enough even on her bad days.
So you literally start your letter with, I'm only going to tell you this 9,428 times, but you better listen. And I think your whole letter was just full of a lot of humor. And for me, I could be wrong, but it just shows that there's always space for a joke or a laugh. Like, have you always been like that? Is it, how you take on life?
For sure, I've been the class clown like my whole life. I think it's made me look at life so easy and not take it too seriously. I think it's really helped me with my joy as well. Mm-hmm. So, and it's made me like make other people happy. So I feel like humor is such a big part of who I am.
Yeah. And you were writing your letter to little Babette.
Yeah.
How old is the girl in the letter?
I would say like in her early teens, probably like 11 to 12.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And why was it so important for you to constantly remind her and, still remind yourself that you are enough?
I would say the programming I had when I was younger. I don't think I had people who spoke life into me. I was oftenly criticized, whether it was in my family. I was the youngest. Mm-hmm. So it was, don't do this, move like this. What are you saying? Keep quiet. And then when I was very loud. I'm a very extroverted person. Only when antisocial extroverted, by the way, let me make that clear. I like to be alone, but I can be loud. And so a lot of people poked at that. So I took their words as ownership. And I felt like I was, too loud, too wrong all the time. And so it kind of, and also when I was younger, I was the ugly friend. Like, so I was at, what's it called? Duff, the Duff. So guys would often come to me to go to my friends. And so I never felt desirable. I never felt loved. I felt the butt of the joke for a long time. So I think this is just to assure her that you are more than enough. You're valuable. It doesn't matter how people view you, how you view yourself is all that matters. Yeah. So, yeah.
And you said that you were the youngest.
Yeah.
How many kids were you guys at home?
Or 2 elder brothers.
Oh, so you're the only girl.
Yeah.
How is it like being the only girl with 2 brothers? Are they like very protective over you?
Yeah, for sure. My eldest brother was very protective. I think it made me want to be independent so bad. But I feel like it also made them shell me a lot. Criticize me, like not really control, but overprotective. So I think my personality right now is explorative and curious because I want to push out of those boundaries. Yeah.
I think as a firstborn, we've all always wanted to have, an elder sibling to see how it is. And in your letter, you said that your first heartbreak was from your dad. How old were you when he left? And what do you remember about that period?
Actually, I'll mention that I didn't accept it for such a long time. I think I was like, I don't need him. Like, I'm gonna be the biggest and I won't even. But then I realized like he left me when I was 3. It was very chaotic because he was abusive and an alcoholic. And so it made me see a lot at a young age. So even when he left, it was chaotic. And my mom struggled to raise us on her own as a single parent. I struggled to forgive him. Even when we speak now, I think I'm still asking God to soften my heart. Because it's not like he was struggling. In fact, he's like very prominent. It was a choice to walk out on us, but in therapy, I'm learning it's okay to accept that people make choices and it's not always about you. Yeah. So it definitely hurt me, and it affected how I see men. It affected how I interact with men. I think I chased a lot of men when I was young, like 18, 19. I did a lot of the validation, and I felt like a man desiring me was like, ooh, all over the world. And even at some point, I wanted to be so boyish so that I didn't have to, I could own up to this. I'm not feminine and I'm so hard, I'm masculine. But no, as I'm healing, I'm realizing I'm embracing my feminine side. And I'm softening for sure.
But even like from your letter and even as you speak, it sounds like there is still some sadness, some hurt, some anger towards him still.
Yeah. It's softening, I would say. I'm learning to let it go because I can't keep living within the trauma lens. I've got to let it go. I've got to create a life. I've got to choose a better father for my kids, a better partner. I can't live there.
Yeah. So would you say that now you've forgiven him?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I think I have.
Let's talk a bit about your mom. What can you tell me about her?
Wow. Okay. Patricia. She's called Patricia. The most selfless person I've ever watched. She's the kindest person. Of course, she's not perfect. There's so many, every parent can't give you everything you need. And I understand her. I totally do. But what she's done with the little she was given, amazing. And I'll forever love and support her. Still, I've made so many mistakes. I think one thing about my mom is I've made so many mistakes, and there's not one day she's closed the door on me and said, you've done it. She said, whatever it is, bring it to the table. We'll align it. We'll talk about it. And I love that about her.
Yeah. And when you look back to the period that your dad left, what can you remember about how your mom handled everything during that period?
It was definitely tough. I think my mom broke. Even if she tried so hard to hide it from us, but I feel like she really broke because anyone can say, like, when you're not expecting, especially after marriage, when you're not expecting someone to completely change, or when you ignore the red flags, or you love someone too much and it's all exploding in your face, it's a blow.
Yeah.
So she cracked, and when I was young, I didn't understand it. I was also a bit hard on her later on, but I was very supportive of the journey where she cracked. But she was a very praying person. She felt her emotions. She went through, I think, with God, when God entered her life, and she stuck with God, it helped her through that period. But I watched her suffer, and it broke my heart. And I think it even added to the bitterness towards my dad. I think it wasn't even him. If he left and we were fine, I don't think I would hit him that much. But when I watched him leave and she was struggling financially, mentally, spiritually, I couldn't watch it. And I also broke as a child. So yeah.
When you say that she not only had to do everything, but she also had to be everything as well, what did you mean by that?
She had to provide school fees. She had to deal with our emotions also, our kids. She had to discipline us. Also at the same time, she was going through court. I'm ready to forgive your father, but he was taking us to court for like some petty reasons. And she was also fighting legal battles that were pointless. School fees. I remember the times we were just drawn out of school. We were thrown out of our house. We had to, like, if I tell you, we lived in Gara, like some dingy place, man. It's not even far from here. And when I realized, like, we're really in a Mabati house because of someone who can change our life, I felt terrible, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, I watched her like lose jobs, like sick. Literally, we don't know that Teseka, and friends also. She had really good friends by then, but you know, they can only help people so long. I remember we stayed at a friend's place for some time. She was very nice. We'll always remember her. But she didn't have a support system. Yeah.
And I can imagine, you know, being a child and now having to watch all of this going on. It must have been tough, yeah. And you also go further and you apologize to yourself because you say, I'm sorry that because you watched your mom having to be everything, you also felt like you yourself, you had to now also be everything.
True.
What did you mean by that? And why did you feel like it was necessary to apologize to yourself?
Because I was very hard on myself. I think when I made mistakes or I didn't live up to expectations, I was so hard on myself. And I also projected that onto people. I was like, you have to do this because, like, you have to be this. So it proves that you're worthy, or it proves that you know you're not worthless. And I don't think I do that anymore, man. I think I do things from love now. And I apologize to the younger Chebet because I was so hard on her, bro. Even if I didn't, you know how when you don't learn something the first time, you're supposed to keep trying until you get good at it. I would stop and say, look at how you're not even doing anything, man. Like, and it keeps you in this cycle of doing nothing because you're unajikashifu, you're not even doing any action in the process. So that's why I apologize to her. I'm sorry I was hard on her. Yeah.
But you can see the growth from even like how, like I said, you were talking to yourself in the letter. It's not from a where on a you know, there's a lot of love. So definitely the growth is evident on that front. When you talk about seeking male validation, how did that look like for you?
Damn. Okay. I viewed men as a different entity. I didn't see them as people. As much as I had brothers and we were close, I felt like those are just my brothers. But other men, like, they're so different. And so when other girls used to interact with men, normally I would be like, how are you doing that? Like, I found that so hard. And then obviously the guys would come to me and be like, can you talk to your friend? Can I have your friend's number? Ever since I was young. Can I get to know your friend? Even to this day, I think there are times when before I healed, there were times where a guy would reach out to me to reach an influencer, and I would go back to that childhood where I'm just like, damn, that, that hurts. But now I don't value external validation from men as much. I'm learning to cultivate friendships with them, see them as also human beings who, as much as I didn't really experience them as much, but I'm in that journey of allowing something good to happen. Yeah. And what else? How else will I say? I looked for male validation, or I really put it on a pedestal. If a guy was interested in me, or if he liked me, I think I would exaggerate his capabilities. So obviously he's a dusty, but because he likes me, I'm like, you're so amazing and you're so cool, and like we can be like, oh my god, Jay-Z and Beyonce, like really exaggerate and
Start
put on
fantasizing
exactly, and not seeing reality. Now I'm really slow. I'm very slow to get to know men. And mostly with our friends now. Yeah.
Yeah. And how would you say all of these occurrences affected your other relationships, not only romantic, but also like platonic ones as well? Because if you're seeking validation from men, that seeking of validation can also seep, to your other friendships. Like, do you think it also ended up affecting like all other relationships?
100%. And it was very subconscious until when I was an alcoholic. So it was until I got drunk that I would project on them, whether it be my brother's friends or just my platonic friends. I would emotionally dump on them. If they showed any interest, I would attack them for that. Like, see now, I told you weren't trying to be my friend. You just wanted to do just like the rest, project on them. So it really affected how I relate with the platonic friendships I had with males, with men rather.
Oh yeah, and you've brought up alcoholism right there. At what point in your life did you realize, like, wait, actually, I'm not drinking for vibes anymore. Like, this is alcoholism right here. So what was the point that you're like, no, hapa kuna shida?
I feel like there were so many warnings. But then it hit me when it seeped into my family. Just the behavior I would have when I get drunk. Very chaotic, very impulsive, very mean-spirited. My relationship suffered. I lost my friends. Even as much as maybe they weren't true friends, but I started noticing people distance themselves from me. My finances, my health, it became like a gut issue and all that. And still, even in the midst of all this chaos, I still denied that I had an issue. I went to rehab, came back, went back in. And even rehab the first time was very forced. My family was like, enough is enough. And they came to my house with a car and they put me in the middle, and my mom sat here and my brother sat here, and they drove me, and I was like, where are we? And that time I was drunk. So I was like, where are we going? They're like, they're not even talking to me. So we got to the gate of Chiroma, and I was like, there's no way, bro. Anyway, got there, I wrestled with the nurses, I got my injection, I slept for how many days? And still after that came out, and first thing I did was drink. I think my ego did not want to accept how bad things had gotten. My pride didn't want to see the way I damaged people and myself. And it was hard to look at. Yeah.
It was a point of acceptance. Like, at what point? Because you said the first time that you went to rehab, so I'm assuming those multiple times that you went. So that first time was forced.
Yes.
Has there been an instance where now you yourself, then who unajipeleka tu, you're like, you know what? Now I've come.
Yeah.
I'm coming in peace. I won't even fight anyone.
Yeah, the second time was very voluntary. Then that's why my psychiatrist was like, now you're getting the idea. The first time she was like, told you. And then now she's like, now you're getting to see what I want you to see. There's an issue. And I told her, yeah, it's true. She's like, it's easy. You can stay as long as you want and go back when you want to feel better. And after that time, I think I began to accept it. When I first reached rehab, I was like, I'm nothing like these people. When these people are talking to me like these are there were so many older guys, younger guys, very range of people, very different range of people. I was like, I'm not like you guys. Like, I'm not, it's not that deep. And then, like, we all say that the first day. But then eventually I realized there's nothing actually different. We had the same emotions, the same thoughts. We related on so much. And the second time I came and I began to really sit down with myself and realize I'm losing a lot. I think I've bled on a lot of people. I've hurt myself in the process. The people pleasing was insane. I think I lost my worth so much. Like, I would sit with people who literally physically abused me, and I saw nothing wrong with that. People who, tarnish my name, and I was like, I don't see anything wrong with that. My self-worth was in the toilet for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would you say that it just ended up being like, your dad leaving, and then now you starting to be hard on yourself? All these things is what compiled, and then now it led to the alcoholism.
100%. I think it was, I never actually, when I blew up on social media, how can I say this? I don't think it's ever been my wish to be famous or to be known. I've always just been authentic. Now, the only problem came in was I never acknowledged my trauma. I never sat down and realized my father had me, high school traumatized me, or this certain ex I had did this, was abusive, and I didn't address it. I always stomached it and kept people laughing. So stomaching and keeping people laughing, stomaching and keeping, until when I met alcohol and it allowed me to release, whether that was either, physically or verbally or, just numbing the emotions. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess it's true what they say that the comedians, the people who are always making other people laugh deep inside, they're usually hurting the most. Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we get out of your relationship with your friends, who would you say is your one go-to person who you go to when maybe you need to vent, need to let stuff out? And what's maybe one piece of advice that you've been given throughout your journey that has stuck with you?
Wow. I've realized a constant is my mom. I have two friends, one's called Nakia, another Indian shorty called Dee. They've been a bit constant, like even through the midst of the chaos and the shine, they've always been there. And something that I wouldn't say people have told me, but what I've told myself is don't lose yourself. Don't lose yourself, man. Find her, find the calm, find the peace, sit with it, find yourself. Don't lose yourself. And I would advise anyone, in whatever you're doing, don't lose your spark, don't lose your authenticity, or stay true to yourself, because no one can, no one can ever know ourselves as much as no one can know us as much as we know ourselves. And the most relationship that matters the most is the one we have with ourselves. So don't lose that. Yeah.
That's nice. And forgiveness is also a big theme, like throughout your letter. What would you say are some major things you've had to forgive people about?
I feel like we're always forgiving each other. Everyone, we've hurt people or people hurt us. But I think when people took advantage of me, of my pain, or just who I am, like they picked what they wanted and left the rest. I felt like people kept taking what they wanted and going, and no one ever put into me. Rarely people put into me. And the people who did put into me, I pushed them away. So, yeah, I think I'm forgiving people for taking advantage of me. Yeah.
And when you say choose who you forgive and who you forgive but not forget.
Exactly.
The forgive but not forget, is it forgive and then I completely cut you off and I don't let you in anymore? Or how does the not forgetting part look like?
I think the not forgetting part is, even after getting hurt, don't lose your kindness. Don't change who you are, but don't overgive to the people who take. Don't allow that door again to open where your boundaries are violated. Yeah, that's the not forget part.
And how do you get to the point where you realize, forgiveness is important? Because at the end of the day, if you keep on carrying all of these things, you're also just getting hurt now. So when you get to a point where you're open to forgiving, because let me not lie to you, if there's one thing I struggle with, forgiving and forgetting, that one. I'm that person who I remember in class 6 what you did to me and I carry it with me. So how do you get to a point where you just, realize that forgiveness also benefits you?
Damn, that's actually a hard one because I'm also still learning. At times I still remember things and they anger me. I think what I can advise or just say is grieve. I feel like everyone has grief, an amount of grief, whether it's the life you didn't live, the person who hurt you, the chances you didn't take. Grieve that.
Yeah.
Once you are able to sit with your grief and cry and just say, it didn't go my way, or this person hurt me and it really hurt me, cry. Feel it. The more you feel it, the more you get to understand yourself. And so now you won't be wearing a mask when you're in public, trying to shield it, because you've already felt what you need to feel. You're now honest with yourself. And you're not performing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that really helps with forgiving people and realizing that you will get hurt in this life. I'm reading the Bible recently, and it says, Jesus says, I didn't promise you an easy life. You will find hardship in this life. And once you know that, you won't take things personally. It's bound to happen. People are going to prosecute you. How do you react to it? How do you show up to the world to shield yourself from such experiences? Yeah, actually, that's what it is.
Yeah. And how would you say your upbringing or your childhood influenced how you saw yourself, and especially in specifically limiting beliefs concerning yourself? Like, what role did your childhood have to play when it comes to that?
I must say, I think people take for granted a very stable background. Having, whether it's even just a mother only or a father only who speaks life into you, is very important. And I didn't know that until I entered therapy, but that's something I lacked. And even my mom, even though she wanted to be present and speak life into me, she was handling everything. So I really, and if I did, it was criticism. You need to lose the weight. You need to look a certain way in front of your brothers. You need to act like this. I didn't hear you're beautiful often. I didn't hear you're worthy or you're worth it. So even when the opportunities came, I'm like, am I really even ready? Or I'm scared, heavy on the fear. Because when you're often criticized, you feel fear. So I can say my childhood really affected how I see the world, especially when it came to my self-worth and my self-esteem. And that's two things that I'm working on right now. And so far, so good. Yeah.
And you also mentioned religion. Did you always be this religious, or it's something that you discovered later on in your life?
Oh, always. I grew up in the church, but then lost my way. I'll just say rebelled because I was unhappy with how life was. So I rebelled towards God, but I feel like I love the relationship I have with God, and I want to continue to cultivate that. I'm not sure about the church. I'm still struggling with the church, but I do attend church when I can. I do believe God is real. And I know that's a bit controversial to some people, but once you experience a very unconditional love, and I say this because I've seen His favor in places where these mistakes I've made don't even, as in that they don't qualify me to be where I am, but He still opens doors for me. He still allows opportunities to happen for me. He's given me forgiveness even towards myself. And so I think it's a very vital part of life for me. Yeah.
What would you want anyone who watches or listens to your episode to take out of this?
Do it scared. Do everything. Like, this is the time to do everything, whether it's the podcast. I know I'm even talking to myself as I say this, but do it scared. The time you feel fear is actually the best time to do it. Yeah. Do, especially when you're young. Don't waste, like 30 comes like this.
Yeah.
Before you close your eyes, you're 30. And what have you done? You know, because when you cared what people thought, please. And there's all opportunities. Expand your mind and never box yourself. You know how, and I notice this with a lot of Kenyans. We like to, and I'm including myself, we like to box ourselves, like, just to this country or just this mindset. Like, bro, your next check could be from SA, your next check could be from UK. You don't, if the people here don't like you, expand your audience. That's what I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah. I know, let me share with you what I've taken away, and my favorite part of especially your letter is when you said, and when the big companies finally come knocking, tell them, you know, it's about time.
Yeah.
Took you long enough, but let's get started. I'm actually waiting for the podcast to be edited. I take that part right there, shwa, turn it into a TikTok sound, and put myself doing big girl things and manifesting there. So yeah, I think that's my favorite part. When you look back at your journey as Rono, as Chebet, what are some things that you'd say you're most proud of?
Damn. I'm very proud that I put myself out there with confidence. I'm very proud of the milestones I've achieved. Maybe it doesn't look like success to other people, but to me, for example, like staying healthy was such a big thing for me. And I'm so happy I did it. Finally having boundaries, just loving myself, you know, inspiring so many girls. Like right now I go to TikTok and everyone sounds like me. I think like no one will admit that, but hey, I'm happy that I've made a difference in people's lives. Like I meet people and they say like, you know, I started working out because of you, or I started, you know, this business because I was like, if you can do it, I can do it. I was like, oh my God. So yeah, I'm proud of that.
So before I say goodbye, we normally do a sort of time capsule thing where you wrote a letter to your younger self. And now, and to take a minute, think about what you'd like to tell Chebet 10 years from now. And then when you're ready, you can look at the camera, leave yourself a message, and hopefully in 10 years' time, I can come back and give you your message.
Save. Thank you for saving. Like, let's start. Like, please save. Okay. Keep manifesting because they're going to happen and they are happening. And I'm working hard to be for you, to be really good for you. Take the risks as much as you can. Girl, take the risks. Stay authentic. Don't change and don't lose yourself. I hope we're a millionaire by the time we're at this age, because I'm working on it. You're valuable. You're worth it. You're enough. Community is very important. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So hopefully in 10 years' time, inshallah, I'll look for you and give you your message. It's been so lovely having you on set.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. And for the guys at home, we'll see you on the next one.